What is a passport bro?
MrReagan.
I've got a new live stream every Monday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. It's called Toxic Masculinity, of course. And I've teamed up with a couple of insightful and very funny gentlemen, Kurt and Jason. It's a great time. I actually think it's the best time. It's literally the best live stream in the world because we have such a good time. We break down the news, whatever's blown up that day, and we tackle some of the more difficult issues of our time. Basically the same thing as my show, but with two other guys who are slightly more intelligent than I am and a hell of a lot funnier. So check that out. Also, remember to buy all my overpriced stuff at Teespring. I've got some really great new t-shirts and mugs that I'm really proud of, so have a look at all that, or just send me money via a super thanks here on YouTube so we can keep trying to save the world. All right, now let's get into it. So I'm actually jumping into this passport bro conversation a little late, but it's actually a much more important issue than I think people realize. So after looking into the passport bro phenomenon, I've decided to do this video. And after doing the research, I realized I am a passport bro. I'm not intentionally a passport bro, but I am a passport bro essentially. So what is it exactly? Because I don't fit into this category exactly, but kind of, yeah, I do. Simply put, it's guys who have realized that American women have been de-feminized, ironically by feminism, and they want a more feminine wife. That's about it. They want a woman who believes that she should respect her husband instead of desperately trying to be an independent woman all the time. So why is this a thing? Why is the passport bro thing happening? Well, the answer is pretty simple. American women are awful. And before you get all pissed off at me, let me just say there are exceptions to this. And if you're a woman watching this video, you probably are an exception. But so why are American women, compared to foreign girls, so terrible? I'll explain in one moment. First, of course, I have to sell you something. You'd have to be living under a rock not to have heard that gold has been hitting record highs. That is quite an achievement since gold has been used as money for thousands of years.
I'm going to add to Bitcoin gold. Gold's had a tremendous move here. I think might have been off today, but it's had a tremendous move.
But why is it surging in 2024? Gold thrives when everything else looks shaky, like the dollar, the national debt, overpriced markets, the cost of living, global wars, and an election that will determine whether America makes a comeback or fades into broken border bureaucratic obscurity.
Is gold still a hedge against inflation?
I think you could argue yes.
Gold has traditionally been looked at as something
Bitcoin.
to diversify your portfolio. Own a little bit of gold. And now
Priority Gold wants to help you hedge the markets, the swamp, the squad, the Fed, the woke mob, and the Washington insiders who want to destroy your savings. Call 469-405-4140 to learn about gold and get up to $2,500 in free silver, which CNBC suggests may have a bigger upside than gold. You can also text MrReagan to that same number, 469-405-4140, for a free gold report, and again, up to $2,500 in free silver. Don't wait on this. Barron says gold continues to climb. The Wall Street Journal sees more green lights for gold, and the Asia Times says investors are now buying gold as insurance because the likelihood of a black swan event is rising. Look, you can do nothing and hope for the best. We saw how that worked out last time around, or you can protect yourself from Joe Biden's dangerous new world. Call 469-405-4140, or you can text that same number, MrReagan, MrReagan, all one word, 469-405-4140. Call them right now. These guys are going to tell you how to hedge with gold, and you can get up to $2,500 in free silver.
She's looking for a job, Pat is, and she's dressed for it too. Tastefully, not expensively. Beth, the receptionist, wears a smart wool dress with a zippered plunge neckline. She can see that Pat's pin dot jersey, Peter Pan collar, and side-swept beret make her a likely candidate. So Pat gets a come on in from the boss's secretary. It's the big moment. The boss herself, yes, we said herself, is wearing a wine wool dress with a standing dandy collar. Like all the girls' styles, it's by Henry Rosenfeld.
How much money does a guy need to make in order to be with you?
Probably 6 figures. Same.
How tall does he need to be?
5'5", so anything taller than me is fine. At least 5'10".
So what do you guys prefer in a guy?
Really rich, really black, at least 6'5".
6'5"?
Yeah, just lots of money, really. Yeah.
Like a yacht and stuff?
Yeah. Can buy me fancy things, take me on trips, pay my rent.
While doing research for this video, I stumbled upon a video from a YouTube channel called Sci Hacks. And of all the videos I watched, I think this guy explains the passport bro phenomenon best.
to be honest, there was always something about the Passport Bros movement that felt a little sleazy and pathetic. My perspective was similar to the prevailing attitude, which was something like, this movement was for guys who were too low status or unattractive to beat out their intrasexual competition here. That was my attitude before spending a month in Japan. That is no longer my attitude now. And I definitely don't think it's just for loser men who can't get laid in America. The quality of the women in Japan was significantly superior to the quality of the women in the Bay Area. Like, not by a little, by orders of magnitude. The women in Japan are slender and physically healthy. These women are feminine. They wear dresses and heels and makeup. They tend to dress more conservatively than Western women. And these aren't 1950s housewives. These are women who, for the most part, are working professionals. They have modern ideas. They are educated and accomplished, but they haven't thrown out more traditional conceptualizations of female beauty. This is not something you can easily find in the West anymore. And you can't find it at all in the Bay Area, at all. The women in Japan are extremely respectful. I didn't experience a single indifferent or disrespectful word, tone, or glance from a woman in a month. When I spoke with them, the feeling I got was that they felt lucky to be interacting with me, which is a total reversal of the attitude you generally encounter in the West. Like, it's not a bad thing to be a man in Japan.
Now, in this video, he is talking specifically about Japanese women, but a buddy of mine, Jason Labrada, who co-hosts my live stream, Toxic Masculinity, every Monday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Don't forget to tune in. Anyway, my buddy Jason, he married a girl from the Dominican Republic, and he said almost exactly the same thing that this guy said, but about Dominican girls. And my exes are mostly all from Eastern Europe. And let me tell you, after dating a few Ukrainian girls, Russian girls, I don't discriminate. After dating girls from all over Eastern Europe, but also several girls from Western Europe and of course American girls, the Eastern European girls, they're just miles ahead. These girls know exactly how to treat the man that they are with. And I understand that the passport bro phenomenon is mostly about Asian girls and women from, say, the Dominican Republic, places like that. Not just foreign girls, but girls who tend to be ethnically distinct, right? Exotic, we might say. I get that, but for me, I prefer the Eastern European girls by a mile. And these girls may not be as submissive as the Asian girls or the Dominican girls or whatever, but for me, that's probably a good thing. I am a very dominant personality. I need a strong woman to counterbalance that. But also, the Eastern European girls, they tend to be, in my experience, very, very intelligent and very, very funny. And they also have a lot of other traits that I find personally desirable. But the reason I don't think most American guys go for the Eastern European girls is, first of course, there are a few stereotypes that I think are mostly unfounded, but also they tend to look kind of scary. Like, Eastern European women always have the resting bitch face, right? And I understand that this can be kind of difficult to get past. They look so severe, I think most guys are kind of scared that if they ask these girls out, they're not just going to get rejected, they might get murdered. But look, that's just the Eastern European culture. If you can get past that, these girls are, in my opinion, the best women in the world. And so why are these girls so much better than American women? All right, there is a mountain of reasons, but let me just start with one. American women today want to be given everything, but they want to give nothing. Today, American women want to be treated like a princess at home, which I completely agree with, but they also want the respect of like a Fortune 500 CEO. And okay, if that's what you really want, I guess that's fine if you become a very successful woman, either deserved or through DEI or whatever. And look, we will show you that respect. But a lot of American women, they want that CEO clout even without the success. And that's kind of annoying. But even then, okay, you're probably going to find some guys out there they're going to give you that respect, I guess. But the real problem here is that they want all of this without contributing anything to the relationship. They don't want to give anything in exchange. They want all of this respect and they want the princess treatment and everything without doing anything that the traditional housewife does, or even showing their man a modicum of respect. American women today, they want to take, but they don't want to give anything in return. Now again, this is not all American women, but I do find that this is a concerning trend. Now, women with kids, they tend to actually be a bit better. They tend to take on some more traditional housewife duties just by default. But it shouldn't take actually becoming a mom before you show that you can be a mom. Men, by our nature, we want a wife that can potentially be a good mother to our children. If you're going to the club till 5 a.m. with the girls, you never clean the apartment, you complain when your boyfriend doesn't spend enough money on Valentine's Day, and to top it all off, you're a 3 at best, you don't deserve to have a boyfriend. And all right, I'm going to be blunt here, okay? This is all the fault of feminism. If you say, I am a feminist, you are part of the problem. Feminists originally presented a case that a lot of people bought, which was that women should not be denied jobs just because they're women. And I'll try to resist commenting on the merits of that idea for now, but feminism did not stop there. The feminists went a lot further. After the feminists won that battle, they then started trying to shift the culture. Feminists won their battle. At that point, they should have just stopped and said, okay, men are awesome, women are awesome, we're all cool. Feminism is not even a thing anymore because we're all equal. We all have equal opportunities. But no. Then they tried to go around shifting the culture. And they were shifting the culture to this. Women should all be CEOs. Not only should women be able to work, but if women don't work, and if women don't want to be hugely successful lawyers or doctors or politicians or CEOs or something that commands a great deal of respect, well, then they are bad feminists. These feminists, they denigrated and they ridiculed the concept of the good wife and mother to the point that the term housewife is now spoken with derision in America. They do the same thing with Christianity. Their strategy is to humiliate people into conforming. It's a juvenile approach to getting what they want. It's the schoolyard bully method, but it works. People do conform because of ridicule and peer pressure, and society has done absolutely nothing to curtail this. The leaders of the feminist movement should be shamed and ridiculed themselves for being such nasty harpies, for bullying women into changing their lives and making themselves miserable in the name of feminism. But they're not. They are revered by women generally. This phenomenon should be studied by psychologists. There are people actively convincing you to make yourself miserable, and they've actually tricked you so effectively that you're praising them for it. It's incredible. But it is the passport bro phenomenon that is causing these miserable women to finally realize their mistake, because men are realizing that women abroad tend to make far superior wives to American women. And the reaction from women is exactly what you would expect from someone who has done something terrible but can't bring themselves to accept it. They blame those who put the mirror up to them and point out their mistakes.
Well, f*** you. Go away. Go find your women wherever you want if you're not satisfied. I don't know what to tell you. If you want a woman who barely even speaks English and just has to suck your dick, go for it.
Passport bros, where's your self-esteem at, bro? It's women everywhere. In the United States, you literally don't have to hop a boat or a pigeon. What a problem, bro. You are the problem. You think if you get on a flight or a boat and you go over to another country, you gonna stop being the problem?
And like women that can speak very little English, women that don't have education, women that need them, women that need them.
Men are beginning to say the quiet part out loud. We were expecting a servant. They're not looking for partnership, they're looking for ownership.
Look, instead of criticizing men for traveling overseas to find a wife, maybe just try to figure out why women in America don't cut it anymore. Maybe try to figure out why these men are so attracted to these foreign women. And then think about why American women don't have that. And then try to adjust your behavior accordingly. And this research isn't that difficult because passport bros are telling you, they're openly telling you. All you have to do is listen, because this phenomenon is not going to end. This is not a fad. This is only going to snowball as more and more guys in America figure this out. American women are going to find it more and more difficult to find a husband. American women, I'm sorry, your days are numbered. Except for the few American girls who figure out how to be attractive to men, the rest of you are screwed. And look, eventually the culture will shift back to a more traditional one because it will eventually become blindingly obvious that most of the women who are landing good husbands are the traditionally feminine women in America, and most of the other women will shift that way too. But this might take a while. A long while, because feminist propaganda has brainwashed Americans into believing that being a traditional woman means that the woman has to become entirely submissive to their husbands and have no opinions of their own, no agency, etc. This is the caricature of the abused and battered woman that feminists pretend has defined the traditional housewife since time immemorial. And this propaganda is why American women have been so strongly conditioned to be so independent, aggressive, and have such a nasty, smug, self-righteous attitude. But none of what the feminists have told you is true. We don't want you to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. That's not even sexy. We want you making us breakfast in high heels and lingerie. I mean, it's kind of a joke, but it's kind of true. But look, you certainly don't need to be quiet little sheep that never speak and who wait in fear of their nightly wife beating. Now, look, you can be you. You can be gregarious, chatty, bold, intelligent, strong, whatever else you think that you can't be if you shift to this more traditional way of being. Being a traditionally feminine woman just means that you add a few things. Adopt a few qualities that women in America seem to have lost. Essentially, just be feminine. But what does being feminine mean to us, the passport bros who are leaving the country to find more feminine women? Well, I've made a list of qualities. Let's go through them. Humility, respect, loyalty, kindness, beauty, cleanliness, elegance, purity. These things have been lost in most American women. Sure, most women have some of these qualities, but I don't think I've ever met an American girl with all of these qualities. And it's extremely rare to find a woman with even most of them. Russian women, Ukrainian women, absolutely. Maybe 50% of Eastern European women have most of these qualities. And look, an American woman watching this, they might say, you know what, American men, they're not that great either. And you know what? I would agree with you. Just as feminism has convinced women to become more masculine, it has also convinced many men to become more feminine. And we will get into more depth about that a little later in the video. But the problem with men is not nearly so bad. Men in America, for the most part, still tend to retain the one thing that makes us great husbands. We still have a sense of duty. Men have a natural sense of duty to their wives and their children. We have a protective instinct. We will provide for you. We will defend you with our lives. And a good American husband will completely refocus his life to make the woman he loves happy. This is exemplified in the practice of manspreading. A few years ago, it became trendy to call this behavior out as some kind of selfish indulgence. Men were taking up too much space in the subway seats in New York City, spreading their legs wide while seated. Some nasty harpy complained about this, and then loads of women all over the country began chirping away. But the reality is that men need to sit like this. First of all, I think this is a condition of thousands of years of having to defend ourselves, our wives, and our children from predators and violently aggressive other people. If a man sits with his legs together like a delicate, dainty little girl, well, then he's extremely vulnerable. You could just push against his shoulder slightly and he falls over. So men take a position of readiness to react, ready for action. Think about how a tennis player stands ready to return a serve, or a baseball player stands ready for the batter to hit the ball, or the starting position of a wrestler. Manspreading is a man who is planted. Also, men have a center of gravity that is far higher than that of a woman. Women carry their weight in their legs and around their hips. Men carry their weight in their chest and shoulders. If the train stops suddenly, a woman might be fine, but a man might find himself toppled over, possibly into the woman next to him. So in certain cases, manspreading is absolutely necessary. But of course, the nasty harpies see this and they're annoyed by it. They don't understand why we do it, and they invent the least charitable and ugliest interpretation, which is that men are just greedy and selfish and want to take up all the room around them. Listen, if you see a man doing something that's different than what women do, maybe, instead of just assuming that it's horrible, maybe ask us why we're doing it. Or maybe just think through all the positive possibilities. And don't be such a vicious, nasty harpy. And could you imagine a woman walking into a room and seeing a man with his knees together like a little girl? The number of women in the world who would find this attractive is exactly 0. Instead of complaining about the guy who's manspreading, you should be trying to get that guy to ask you out. That's the man that you should be dating, because that is a man in a position ready for action. That is a man who can protect you from a dangerous aggressor. This is the kind of man that you should want to be with. And that brings me to the most important point in this entire video. American women need to, once again, respect the simple existence of good men. The presence of a man is a deterrent from violence. A man can be violent, and a woman who is vulnerable in society, they need that man to protect her. Certainly, physical assault is relatively rare in modern society, but such things do happen. And if all the good men suddenly vanished from the earth, it wouldn't matter how important a woman is in her high-powered corporate job or how much attitude the fat black chick at the DMV has. These women would all be attacked instantly by the bad guys out there, and they would all lose. They would all learn exactly how vulnerable to men they really are. The only reason that you have not been murdered already in your lifetime is because good men exist. The reason that the bad guys don't assault you ladies all the time is that the good men of the world are a bulwark against this. We exist, and bad guys know we exist, and so they do not tend to attack you. Feminist women walk around in America with this smug attitude, pretending like the bad men around them would not absolutely destroy them in any kind of physical confrontation, totally ignoring the fact that it's the good men around them that are protecting them from this every second of every day. We have created an almost perfectly safe society for you, except for in Democrat-run cities, obviously. And yet, there is 0 gratitude for this. 0 gratitude for developing the safest society in the world, Western civilization. Instead, good men in America are treated like second-class citizens. Deep down, women do understand this, though. In spite of all the overpowered women in movies these days, women do understand deep down that they are physically weaker than men, that they are vulnerable in society, and that they need men to protect them. And I think that this is actually where a lot of the resentment and hatred of men comes from. It used to be a bit funny to make a joke about a woman being superior to a man because everybody recognized that at the end of the day, men were basically all physically stronger. So if it came down to some kind of zombie apocalypse, men would have to be relied on entirely to defend women and children. But our society has become so comfortable and so safe that women basically choose to ignore this. And they tend to adopt the smug attitude that I mentioned before. And because corporations tend to favor hiring and advancing women over men in corporate jobs, we now have a lot of women in high-power positions that they don't deserve. It's like the popular interpretation of DEI so brilliantly spells out, DEI didn't earn it. And this has dramatically exacerbated the problem. Now, women forget that they're physically vulnerable and totally reliant on men for their safety every second of every day, and many women are now making a ton more money than men in positions that they don't actually deserve, but they just ignore the reality of the situation, and they live in the Barbie land fantasy where women built everything in Western civilization. And look, there certainly are fewer men with an abundance of the masculine traits that women tend to find attractive these days in America. But I do believe that even the weaker men still retain the baseline traits that women want in a husband: duty to one's wife and children, a compulsion to provide for and protect the family. But beyond that, yeah, okay. Even a lot of straight guys in Gen Z, they talk kinda gay.
He never actually saw an appendix. Dissection was considered a generally icky thing, and other than some scholars in Alexandria, any kind of academic dissection back then was done on animals. Also, let's get this out of the way now. Appendixes is the plural for appendix if we're talking about the body part. Appendices is for when we're talking about, like, a book appendix.
But, ladies, you can thank feminism for this. As I said earlier, women know at their core that men are stronger than them. And I think that breeds a lot of resentment in some women. Traditionally, Women reconcile this by finding a man that they can depend on, and they attach themselves to this man. They become devoted to this man, and they are even proud to be the wife of this man. But feminists have taken a very different approach. Feminists have developed the monumentally idiotic approach of, well, let's just weaken all men and let's strengthen all women. Let's make men feminine and let's make women masculine. Then women will be the powerful ones and men will be weak and inferior. This is, of course, ridiculous. First of all, you can never make all men weaker because most men are never going to fall for absurd feminist backward thinking. Secondly, the guys who do fall for this, these are going to be the naive guys who want to do the right thing. Now, look, if you trick good men into thinking that the morally righteous way to live their lives is to become demure, vulnerable, and physically unimposing, to not be a threat, well, then you're going to have a lot of good men who are weak. But you know which guys are going to totally ignore your false moral imperative insisting that they be weak? Bad men. Because bad men don't really care about doing the right thing. And so they're going to totally ignore this false moral imperative, and they're going to be as physically threatening and dominant as they want. And so now you got a society of these jacked up, masculine, aggressive, bad guys, and these weak, feminine, vulnerable, demure little good guys. It's not a good formula, ladies. Imagine you're on a subway in New York, and a woman is getting assaulted by one of these thugs. And you turn to your feminized, vulnerable, sensitive husband. He's going to throw his hands up and he's going to say, well, what can I do? That guy's scary. Why don't you stop him? You're closer. A normal guy from the 1980s or, decades previous to that, he'd go up to the monster and immediately start swinging. Maybe the guy's twice his size. Okay, well, in such a case, he's probably just not going to stop swinging until one way or another, the thug stops moving. In any case, a typical man from a bygone era would stop that vicious attack. Your boyfriend who works at the makeup counter at Bloomingdale's, them would not dare step in. And so the feminists are actually creating a world that is far more dangerous for themselves. And we've seen this in recent years, brutal attacks in public that go unchallenged by the bystanders. And I truly believe that this is the fault of the feminists who have manipulated our society into weakening our men. Ladies, if you want a masculine man and you can't find one, maybe stop supporting feminism. And yes, I have heard a lot of women complain that there are no good men available. But I don't think this is really true. Aside from the fact that there are fewer men today who would step in and stop an assault on the subway, I do think that there are many American men out there who are suitable husbands. They might make less money than you, or perhaps they're not as handsome as you would like. But if you can look past the damage done by feminism, a lot of the great guys out there who cannot find a good wife in America, sadly, they're just being overlooked. As I said earlier, everything that a man needs in order to be a desirable husband, we still have that in America. But all of the things that a man wants in a wife, American women have lost. And just in case you missed it the last time, I will repeat this list. Humility, respect, loyalty, kindness, beauty, cleanliness, elegance, purity. As I said, I have seldom encountered an American girl with an abundance of these qualities. Women have been so indoctrinated against these things that when I was in college, and I was, keep in mind, this was like 1999. I am very old. When I was in college, I asked a girl what she wanted to do after graduation, and she said she wanted to be a housewife. I was absolutely flabbergasted. I had quite literally never heard a woman say that before. And this girl, who I hadn't really been attracted to up until that point, suddenly I was really attracted to her. If she had not been dating my buddy, I would have set up a date right there on the spot. And let me talk quickly about the last characteristic that I listed here, purity. A lot of people have discussed this online. Most people say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many guys a girl's been with. It doesn't matter. And look, I made this point before on the show. We've really shifted from a society that used to talk about preserving a woman's virginity to a society that talks openly about a woman's body count. I personally find this revolting, but it is what it is. We are where we are. But on the subject of body count, let me illustrate the point this way. The difference between a girl who is a virgin or a girl with a very low body count, I'm talking like no more than 4 previous partners, the difference between that kind of a girl and a girl with over, say, 10 previous partners is basically the same thing as the difference between a private toilet and a public bathroom. Let that sink in. Your private toilet, presumably attached to your bedroom, you keep that as clean as you like. Let's say you're the only one who uses that toilet. You know exactly what's been on the floor. You know exactly what has sat on that porcelain seat, etc. You go to a public bathroom. Okay, I mean, look, some public bathrooms, they're pretty nice, okay? But at the end of the day, you don't know what the hell was in there before you. And if you have to use a public bathroom, you clench your teeth, you try not to touch anything, and you are out of there as soon as possible. You're not introducing that toilet to your mother. And so look, of course American men are traveling overseas to find a wife. Of course we are. If you are a young man in America and you want a nice traditional wife, and you're not traveling overseas, you're an idiot. I mean, look, maybe you're just a bit ignorant or you're broke, but in any case, this is a no-brainer. Any single man with any sense and even a little financial freedom is traveling outside the US if he wants a good wife. And look, these girls do exist in America. Like, don't get me wrong. But if I go out and I meet American girls and 1 in 1,000 have these qualities, and then I go to a foreign country and I find that like half the women have these qualities, well, it just makes sense that I'd rather be dating women overseas. And I think that a lot of the criticism that the passport bro phenomenon has gotten is due to the fact that old ugly dudes have been going abroad to find wives for decades. And these guys, I think it's always been assumed, probably fairly, that the reason that they go abroad is that these women, they want an American because Americans have more money and can get them that American citizenship. I even get asked this sometimes about the Eastern European girls that I've dated in the US. In fact, just tonight I was asked that about, because I was talking to this guy about the kind of girls I date. I told him a lot of Russian girls. He goes, oh, of course you're American. They want the passport. They think you have money and everything. This is like the most insulting thing, right? Because like, do I look like the kind of guy who needs to get a girl by offering her American citizenship? Really? Thanks, guy. That is a lovely assumption. But okay, let me set the record straight. All right, every girl that I have dated from Eastern Europe, Russian, whatever, Ukrainian, except one. There was one girl from Belarus who did not have this. But all the rest of them, they all had either American citizenship already or they were in the process of getting it. They certainly did not need it from me. It is such a nasty assumption. You know, I know there's a lot of people, even people who watch the show, who have assumed that about my ex or about the other foreign girls that I've dated. I know guys like to dismiss the success of other guys all the time. Oh, he only got that girl because she wants a green card. No, that has never happened to me. That has never happened to me even once, okay? And the assumption, really annoying. But look, obviously this does happen to some degree. And so guys do have to be a little careful that a foreign girl is not just dating them to get that green card. But I think it's a little bit less often the case than you might think. I met this Russian girl in LA once at a nightclub. Stunningly beautiful girl. And we're chatting and she's very smart. She's very funny. We're getting along really, really well. And she gives me her Instagram. And I look through her Instagram and I see this guy, bald, fat, a little older. And I'm sitting there thinking, this cannot be her boyfriend, right? And I said, is this your boyfriend? She says, oh, that is my husband, you know. And I am shocked. So, you know, then I make the same nasty assumption, right? And I say, but you're not really married to him because you're like in love with him, right? This is just like a green card thing. And she's like, no, I love him. He is my husband. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, this is not fair. Okay, I could be with this amazing girl, but she is committed to this guy. It was like some cosmic joke, but I had to respect it. You know, I backed off, of course. But man, that was a shock, let me tell you. But the point is, she was not with that guy just for the money. She was not with that guy just for the citizenship. She found a guy that she genuinely loved, you know. And, you know, maybe he wasn't what I would think of as classically handsome, but she loved him and she had committed herself to him, and that was it. And, you know, it was amazing. It was like, you're like the perfect wife. That is the luckiest guy in the world. And I was traveling through Poland last year, and I dated a few girls there. And I actually had the opposite problem of the foreign girl who wants to get U.S. citizenship, because some of these women were pretty successful, right? They had pretty successful careers in Poland. One girl in particular was a dentist, and she was like very hesitant to date me because she couldn't leave Poland. You know, she had this dental practice there. I mean, she was very young, but that's, you know, she had clients and things, you know, she had people that, or patients, I guess they're not clients, right? Patients, she had patients. And so she was really hesitant to get involved. A few girls were like this. They were very hesitant to get involved romantically with an American guy because they thought, well, I'd have to move to America or whatever, and I like my career. And there was also this assumption that an American guy just passing through the area, you know, he's only going to be interested in one thing, right? And I'm not really like that, but that was always the assumption. And so a few girls, you know, they were very cynical and they were very reluctant to date me. So I don't think a lot of these foreign girls are dating guys just for the American citizenship anymore. I mean, certainly there is some of that, of course, but I think it's a lot less than it used to be. But I digress. Let's get back to the problem of the American woman and American culture generally. I think that between around 1990 and today, we have actually facilitated a precipitous cultural descent. We've actually encouraged the entitled behavior of women that was influenced by the nasty feminists, and we facilitated this by continuing to compete for these American girls with no manners or even an interest in pretending to be feminine. I mean, I think it was a little bit like, you know, the frog in the pot brought slowly to a boil, but in any case, we let it happen. Until now. Because of this passport bro phenomenon, as I said, women are going to have to relearn how to attract a man. This was an art that was being refined in America up until about the 1960s. After the hippie movement and after women's liberation destroyed women's minds, they lost that art completely. Certainly, American women are still attractive to American men. I mean, they are women. But unfortunately for American women, American men have discovered that foreign women are a lot like American women from the 1950s. And so until American women start to wise up about this, I think it's just going to be harder and harder for them to find a desirable man. We're all going to be going overseas to find our chicks. Either that or, you know, we're going to be picked off by the immigrant girls. But look, American women can win us back. They just have to learn to adopt the qualities on my short list. Humility, respect, loyalty, kindness, beauty, cleanliness, elegance, and purity. All right, guys, so that's it for me. Now go buy all my overpriced crap on Teespring. Like I said, I've got some really great new t-shirts and mugs that I'm so proud of. So go have a look at that, or just send me money via Super Thanks here on YouTube so we can keep trying to save the world. And remember to check out my live stream, Toxic Masculinity, every Monday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. And remember, it's not that all liberal friends are ignorant. It's just they know so much that is not so. Good night.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.